This is the Recovery Lab.
Here we dive deep into the struggles, victories, and hope that stem from recovery.
No shame, no judgment, just truth, grace, and inspiration.
Let's walk this road together.
Hey guys, welcome to Recovery Lab. This is episode 116, and I am Brynn Knox.
I'm David Sugg.
I'm Daniel Anderson.
And we have a very special guest today that I'm really excited about. Before we get into that, just a couple housekeeping things. There is now the first Narcan vending machine in Mississippi.
Whoop, whoop. Yeah,
I know.
that's awesome.
It's huge. And vending machine sounds like you have to go and like pay for Narcan, but no, it's completely free. It's in the Jackson Medical Mall.
Wow.
Fund Recovery was here, and they were behind this, as well as Ruth Ann Rigby. And so you just go in and you go to the right, and there's a vending machine full of Narcan, and you just press the button and you can get however many you need. And it's pretty amazing. This is the first one we got.
Yeah, Narcan's almost like EpiPens. I mean, like every like mom, parent, somebody just concerned, like you ain't got to be in the scene to necessarily want to carry one of these things. I mean, just being aware of how to use it and what it's for is just about for anybody, really.
Exactly, yeah. I've heard several stories of people that have no idea, like anyone who's on drugs or anything like that, that have actually they've been in sort of a situation, whether it's like a restaurant or, you know, a gas station parking lot, just something, and something happens and someone needs Narcan. And so it's pretty incredible that we have this here now, and hopefully we'll just keep getting more and more. And then the second thing I wanted to say is Run for Read is coming up. It's at Soulshine on Thursday. Yeah, the 17th. And so look up the Hope Ultra Facebook page. You can also go to my Facebook page. I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff on it. So anyways, come out, support my boy.
Yeah.
All right. All that being said, let's get into our guest. Today we have Erin Polzin. And I met Erin a few years ago, about 2, maybe 3 years ago. And she actually approached me at a meeting. And I thought that was cool because you were fairly new in the rooms. And you can always spot, the newcomers that stay in the rooms after the meeting and are there before the meeting. And they're looking to just like meet people because it's like they know in their heart, these are my people, this is my family, and I need to get to know all of them if I want to stay in this thing. And she's just one of those people. So without further ado, hello, Erin.
Hey.
How are you feeling today?
I'm excited to be here.
Good. All right, so what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit. I've heard your story before, and I think it's really powerful, and I think you're really relatable, and I can't wait for people to hear a little bit about all of it. But let's start with what it was like. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I was born here in Jackson, raised here. I have a mother and father that loved me very much. Grew up, my dad had a job that required him to travel a lot. So he'd be gone a week, home a week, gone a week, home a week. And there was a lot of instability in the household. So there was a lot of rules and then no rules. And, I just kind of grew up with this almost all or nothing. Like you're going to really obey or you're going to do nothing. And as I went through, growing up, I kind of just had this idea that I was not allowed to really express who I was, be who I was, and just kind of hide.
Yeah.
So as I kept going, I had a brother. He was 7 years older than me, and he was the coolest thing in my life. And I always would follow him around, tag along.
I'm surprised he'd let you.
Yeah.
That 7-year age difference,
He did. It was with a fight sometimes, but he did. and I worshiped the ground he walked on. And when I was about 12 years old, I was digging through his stuff. I loved to rummage through my brother's stuff. I don't know why this was something I did, but I did. And
Sneaky.
in his drawer, I found pot.
Mm.
And this kind of shocked me at first, but not for long because I very quickly grabbed it. And
Did you know what it was?
I think I did. I think I had heard like he had gotten in trouble for smoking pot, and I was kind of shocked. But when I found it, I knew what it was, and there were papers in there. And this, I always say that in my entire using career, I was terrible at rolling joints. I could never roll joints
Me
well.
too.
It was awful. But this day, in
Pull it off.
1996, I rolled the best joint ever. And I take this joint and
That's really impressive, by the way.
I did it. I pulled it off. And me and my girlfriend, we snuck out of the house. We went to the woods and we got stoned for the first time. And I remember just feeling free. I feeling like I could be myself, just relaxing in who I was and being comfortable. And I knew I wanted to feel that way forever.
Mm-hmm.
And so a few years passed. My brother's I'm 15. My brother's 7 years older than me. He's got his own place, and I figure out I can go to his house and drink and do whatever I want on the weekends freely. And he was in a band, and he would play at Finian's and George Street. And
Finian's.
oh my God, it was so fun, and I was allowed to tag along. And oh God, now that when I think of it, even now, it was fun then. Those were the fun times, I had a shirt that said "I'm with the band," and I was allowed to drink. I would go up, and I was 17 years old, and they would make me Crown and Cokes, and I would pop whatever pills were available. And I remember them having to carry me out of George Street one day, and it was funny, to all of them. They thought it was funny, and I did too. For a while, it was the story. You remember Erin did this, But it progressed very quickly for me. They talk about how in some of our literature about how it progresses for women very quickly, and it did for me. It wasn't very long before I was on all sorts of chemicals, hard street drugs that you just don't expect 17-year-olds to be on.
Yeah.
And I remember one day I had come home and 17 years old, and I was smoking drugs out of a pipe in my car, and I got out of my car, and this pipe falls out of my lap and hits the ground, and my dad's in the garage, and he comes over and he grabs it and he's screaming in my face, "What's this? What's this?" And I just stood there, I didn't even respond. And he finally stopped yelling, which understandably he yelled,
Yeah.
Concerned parent. My father loved me, At that time, I was mad at the world and mad at them. They were the problem.
Mm-hmm.
But when he got done yelling, he didn't realize that I still had half of the pipe and some of the drugs. And I went upstairs and finished getting high, closed my door. And
Because we just don't care.
We don't care. We're completely numb. All that matters to me is how I can change the way I feel.
Yes.
So,
I think that's good for parents to know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If they do have a teenager who is, stuck in this hole with this stuff, and I can imagine the parents but don't they care that they're hurting me? Don't they care? And it's we
don't.
kind of don't,
We don't know any other way.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So that was a week before my 18th birthday, and I went into treatment 3 days later at
Yay.
Joe Lamar in Macomb. Oh, it was a beautiful place. I was still on my parents' insurance at that time, so it was like
nice
a country
one.
club.
Yeah.
It was good.
They all got a nice one.
Yeah. Well, that was the first and only nice one. But I went there.
Willingly?
No,
Okay.
kicking and screaming. I remember going in, and I was like, I'm going to run when I get here. And they're like, we're going to call the cops. And I'm like, I'm going to sit down. Cops always got me in line. I did not like jail. So I spent about 6 weeks there. I remember this guy, we called him Big Book Johnny. He would come in and do big book studies, and I would fight with him about everything. I remember him reading how it works, and I said, I'm an unfortunate. I'm not at fault. I was born this way. And he was like, shut up and sit down. You know?
You were that guy.
Yeah. And I mean, I just wasn't ready. I was not willing. There was no part of me that was ready at 18 years old. So I spent 6 weeks there and was drinking and using within 3 days of leaving. And it didn't take long for my parents to figure that out. And my parents would always, they'd figure out I was using and they would throw me in treatment. Thank God, because I would probably be dead if they didn't. And what I would do is I would go to a treatment and I would think, okay, so you were doing this drug, you can't do that one anymore. So I'd come out and I'd do something else. And then I'd go to treatment for that, and then I'd come out and do something else. And then it was just this cycle of like coming out, doing something else, coming out, doing something else. And
I'm surprised that didn't work.
why not?
Yeah.
And it just progressively got worse and worse. And I was in and out of treatment, in and out of jail, in and out of toxic, terrible relationships. Like, men are a part of my story. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like a partnership. They go hand in hand. You do it together. And I was in a couple of long-term relationships and doing IV drugs, doing, whatever I could to change the way I feel all day, every day. Lived in some hotels. They actually have recently torn down the hotel that I used to live on. I get to pass it on I-55. It just makes my heart so happy that they ripped that place down. Like, it was, there was one day, and this
The
is.
Oyo?
It's right next to the OTO. I think it was like the Motel 8 or something like that. And
Like by Sam's. Remember that bar, Sam's?
I lived there for a little while, but that's not the one. It's the one on 55. It's right by Hotel Oyo. They were like conjoined, and they knocked down half of it. And thank God
two
they
friends
did.
die over there. It's like, I hated that place.
Yeah, it was
I hated
horrible.
Yeah.
And I lived there for like a year. And I remember one morning, and this is awful. I can't believe I'm about to say this publicly, but I remember one morning I woke up, I picked bugs out of my hair, and I went and did whatever it took to get loaded. That was my job, to change the way I feel. That was it. And I continued that for a long time. And I was in this long-term relationship with this guy. He was crazy. We got in a really big fight one night and at this hotel. And I remember thinking, he's going to kill me. And something in me got up, and I went back to my parents' house the next day. I ended up in a treatment center in Columbus, and I really wanted to get sober that time. I remember going in and thinking, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to listen, and I'm going to get sober. And I'd been there for about 3 weeks when I got a phone call. My brother, who was fighting his own demons, he had overdosed and passed away. And, they let me come home for the funeral, and we said goodbye to my brother. And it was just that empty feeling, It's hard to explain. I'm sure everybody knows what grief feels like, but it was just that feeling of how is the world still turning. I remember going in and asking my mom, how are we ever going to laugh again?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, when this light of your family. And she assured me that we would, in all her grief. And I didn't want to go back to treatment after that. And they sent me anyway, which they should have. But
what did you do in those moments? Because I'm sure in those moments you were like definitely wanting to change the way you felt, because you felt so, I can't imagine.
I don't really remember during the funeral, but I remember going back. I couldn't sit still. I could not sit still. That stillness I had felt before when I was like ready to get sober, I could not sit still when I came back after the funeral. And I was mad. I was mad at my parents for sending me back. I was mad at my brother for dying. And I was mad at God, very mad at God. And I made a phone call and had one of these wonderful guys that I'd been with come pick me up. And we went straight back to Jackson. And I continued to numb my pain through a hole in my arm for the next 3 months. And not long after that, my mother had heard of this new drug called Suboxone. Maybe it wasn't new, but it was more popular and on the scene at the time. And she took me to a doctor, and they put me on it, and that got me off the hard drugs. Now, I do believe Suboxone, you know, I'm not a doctor whatsoever, but I was just taking it. I was not in a 12-step program. I was not getting therapy. I was not doing anything else. So it got me off all these hard drugs, but I was still doing other things like smoking pot and drinking, and I thought I was maintaining. And my life did kind of level out for a little while. Like, things became a little bit normal. I got out of these relationships with these toxic people. I met this guy, and we got married. And he had 2 children that I fell in love with instantly. I ended up adopting them, and I got pregnant and had a child. And things were better for a while. It was what I considered a normal life. You know, I'm still smoking pot morning, noon, and night. You know, I'm still drinking with him, but things were not totally crazy at this point. They had kind of leveled out. And
Like somewhat manageable.
Somewhat manageable. And I think I was almost living off the high of being like a new wife and a new mom too. You know what I mean? Like, I loved it. I loved birthday parties and soccer moms and like all this stuff. Like, it was wonderful. I had this purpose.
Yeah.
And God, I love those kids. and it was just great. But after a while, you know, that you can only keep everybody happy for so long. And then it goes back to that old, I'm not good enough. I'm not keeping everyone happy. When in reality, that's just life. You can't keep everyone happy. And, but it was all me, and I'm the problem. And then my son, my youngest that I gave birth to, he wasn't hitting milestones. There were very specific milestones he wasn't hitting. He wasn't talking. He wasn't, you know, there was just a lot going on. It was very, I knew something wasn't right. You know what I mean?
Aside from the not talking.
Behavior issues, no eye contact, not wanting to play with other children, you know, getting into everything. This kid, y'all, I know kids get into everything. This kid got into everything, like constantly. You had to have locks on doors, running, taking off. They call it eloping. Just, you know, into traffic. Like, you can't constantly. Like,
Yeah.
And, you know, I knew very quickly something wasn't right, and we started making appointments, and we got a diagnosis of autism and speech delay, stuff like that. And I don't know, you know, I tried to like really like pull myself up by my bootstraps, like, we're going to handle this, we're going to do this, but inside I was dying. You know what I mean? Like, I was hurting, I was grieving, I was dying. And I think my husband at the time, he was too. The kids, everybody was affected by it, you know. We didn't know what to expect. We didn't know what was going on. And it was hard to, like, you have this child that doesn't want to play with other children, that doesn't want to share. So it's really hard to make friends and have a community. So I'd built this, like, I was going to make our house like this playground. Like, I was going to get us a swimming pool, and I was going to make this swing set, and like, I was going to do all this stuff where we never had to go anywhere, and we were just going to live our lives right here. And it seemed great in theory, but in reality, I'm building my own prison. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My own little, he's having a great time, and I'm walking around with a Nuke's cup filled with Bacardi. And you know, went to see a doctor who put me on some anxiety meds. And before you know it, I'm running out of my meds, way before it's time to get more. And
How easy was it to get those anxiety meds?
it was really interesting. Like, hey, when you go into a doctor and you say, hey, I've got a kid with autism, they're like, okay. You know, it was not that easy for me in my 20s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe I went in there batshit crazy. I don't know. But I walked in there with all this, like, it was very easy.
Yeah.
You know? So
Are
I'm
you
running.
still on Suboxone then?
No,
No.
not anymore. I had actually gotten off that when I got pregnant.
Gotcha.
So that was a horrible withdrawal.
Yeah.
But it did I believe it saved my life at that time. I needed that. So, running out of these meds within a couple weeks, and my husband was prescribed to some stuff, and, I start stealing his, one or two, and then it's handfuls. And then he's like getting a safe to lock me out of his meds and all this stuff. And we're smart. Like, I knew where it was. I knew how to get in this safe. I knew where he was hiding it. And, but it's just that progression, like that more and more and more. And then when we ran out, I'm back to calling my old friends, that I knew before I got married. And they are very quickly helping me, taking my money. And, it just got very insane very quickly. Before you know it, I was smoking meth again.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going out to my dealer's house, and I said, I wasn't at first. You're just going to do it here, and then you're going to go home. And then it was, you're just gonna, you're just going to take it home and do it this, and you're not going to do that. All those things we tell ourselves.
The caring dealer, yeah. The shepherd, I'm going to make sure it's okay. You're just going to do it here in a safe place.
Yeah. He had this. Yes. So, but then it turned into, okay, you're going to take it home this one time. You're just going to do it for a little while, and then you'll quit. And I remember telling myself at one point, one more week, you're going to do this for one more week, and then you're going to stop, And things had gotten really crazy. Like, I looked like death. I hadn't been sleeping. I'd been disappearing for long periods of times. Everybody knew something was up, but they didn't know it was that, And I was sitting in my closet one day, doing what we do.
As we do.
And I was like, one more week. You're just going to do this for one more week. And I started counting on my hand how long it had been since I'd said 1 week the first time. And it had been 5 months.
Wow.
And I remember my son, like I'd been in the closet and I went out front and my son came up and he sat in my lap and how your baby smells?
Mm-hmm.
Like I sat down and I smelled the top of his head and I had that thought, like, if you don't stop doing what you're doing, you're going to lose this child. You have to get it together tomorrow. And I remember he crawled up in bed with me one night and I thought, remember this moment. If you do not stop doing what you're doing, you're going to lose this child. Remember this when this happens. And, my disease loves to tell me that I can stop tomorrow. It loves to tell me one last time. And, that never came for me. Something came to pass. My husband said something to me that I didn't like one night. It probably wasn't as severe as I made it out to be after not sleeping for 2 weeks. And I physically attacked him in front of our children. And I always can't believe I tell this story. But, he got the kids. He ran out. I remember that night, like still to this day, I remember like holding the dog and the dog or holding my baby and then ripping my baby out of my hands. And today I'm told I was holding the dog. Like, that's how insane, like driven to the gates of insanity. I was in a state of like alcohol and drug induced insanity.
Mm-hmm.
It was wild. And, I ended up in court a few days later. They told me I had to go to treatment to see my children again. And I remember being in court saying, tomorrow, I'll go tomorrow. I'll go tomorrow, I'll go tomorrow. And they weren't having it, thank God. Thank God they weren't having it. You know what I mean? Like, I was crazy. Like, I was in there screaming, I'm a good mom,
And believe in it.
And believe in it.
Yeah.
And there was a woman in there that day. I didn't remember her name. I didn't really remember much about her, but I remembered her voice. I remembered her just voice in that courtroom. And she would become a big part of my recovery. And I ended up, through some kicking and screaming, ending up being driven to Vertava in South Haven in the back of a cop car. So I think it took about 2 weeks for me to like really wake up. You know what I mean? Of like realizing what happened, what had transpired, who I had hurt, my children mainly. Like, I think I was going through some paperwork and I found the court paperwork and it said neglect due to the mother's drug and alcohol abuse. And it's just like, you know,
like finding a forceps somebody wrote for you.
yeah.
Like, eesh.
Yeah. So, you know, I just knew I had to get home and get back to my kids. I think I withdrew from my kids in treatment more than anything. Like, so I get out of treatment. My parents, you know, my teenagers didn't really want much to do with me at that point, but my parents brought my 4-year-old to see me, and I get in the back of the car with him, and he puts his hand on my face. You know, he's nonverbal. He can't speak. I was scared he was going to forget me, all the stuff. And he puts his hand on my face, and his eyes are just like, you know, I love you, you know, no matter what. Like, you can, you know, the kid can't communicate verbally, but I know what he's saying. And it was in that moment that I knew I had to do whatever it took to get sober. That was like, I don't think I had a lot of like spiritual experiences, but that was it for me. That was my white light moment. You know, I was like, I'm going to do whatever it takes. And I spent about 2 more weeks down there, ended up coming back to Jackson, going to IOP at Shephurst Meadows. You know, I credit them with a lot. I got sober in the rooms of 12-step programs, but I really learned how to deal with my emotions and my feelings and all that stuff at Shephurst Meadows. And I'm very grateful for that place. So I come home and I go to court. I report to court. I go take a drug test. I talk to that same woman that was in court that day, and I'll go get back in my car outside of the courtroom. And I sit there and I think for a minute, and I'm like, here's that pivotal moment. You get to go left or you get to go right. You get to go to a meeting or you get to go to Florence. That's where I used to get high. So, something in me decided to go to that meeting that day. And
What meeting was it?
It was Madison Ridgeland. So I sat in that it was full room that day. It was the middle of summer. That was mid-July, so it was about 3 years ago right now. And God put me in that room with that woman that I would ask to be my sponsor. Like, our energies matched. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, she was a teacher, so she technically shouldn't, like, if it was any other time of the year, she wouldn't have been in that room. I truly believe God put me with that woman that day. And I asked her to be my sponsor. And like, that was the one thing I knew from treatment. From all the stuff I had been in treatment, I knew I was supposed to go to a meeting and get a sponsor. And I did it. And she asked me when we wanted to meet, and like, I didn't have anything to do. Like, you know what I mean? I didn't have a job. I had just gotten out of treatment. Like, I was like, I can meet today. You know? And within 2 hours, we were sitting at Cups, going through it, doing the thing, you know? And I started telling her about me. And I think what was so shocking about that, I'd tell her all these things, and I'd be like, I did this. And she'd be like, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Like, nobody gives a shit. You know? You're not special, you know? And I needed to hear that. I needed to hear that I was not the worst person in the world, that that I was forgivable, and that, you know, I could get better. And we started working the program and working steps, and you know, at first I went back and lived with my husband. That didn't last very long, for whatever reason. Good man, good father, very grateful to him for all he does. But I ended up back at my parents' house, with reluctancy. You know, I didn't want that. You know, you want your family to work out. Like, part of me still wants to act like this badass. It's like, oh, screw him. But the truth is, I wanted my family to be together, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
And I had a huge part to play in that. But I was on that long road of reconstruction that they talk about, and I needed that. So I went home and I started working steps, like, and and just getting involved in the program like nobody's business. We talked about that very addict of me. Like I was all in all the time. Had nothing else to do either. So, you know, so I would go to like 2 or 3 meetings a day. My sponsor was big on service work. I cleaned coffee pots. I welcomed the newcomer. Anybody new that walked in the room, it was my job to say hello, whether they were new or not. And I enjoyed that. Like I needed friends, you know. I had not had that, and I needed it and wanted it, and went to it, got to doing it, and it was hard. I mean, that first 6 months, it was difficult, you know. I remember hurting. I would, you know, like, I only have today. We don't know what tomorrow holds, but I hope I never go through that again. Like, I pray to God that I keep doing the thing and I never have to be in the first year of sobriety again. It sucks. It's hard. It's literally a daily grind. And, but at the same time, the passion I had for it, like, I loved it. And, you know, I remember doing the thing, the 4th step, the 5th step, Mansdale, my home group, you know, like, I got sober in that room on that couch. I swear to God, like, I want that couch one day in my house. Like, if they ever get rid of that couch, they better give me that couch. Like, I love that couch. And so life, I remember they told me, I think the one thing, you know, I remember calling my sponsor, my teenagers, they were very, you know, my 4-year-old didn't care. He loved me no matter what. You know, he didn't remember. The teenagers, not so much. They very much remembered. They were very angry, as they should be. And it was a daily grind trying to rebuild that relationship, and it hurt. And I would go over there, and my teenage daughter would scream in my face and tell me she wanted nothing to do with me. And that's just the PG version. And I remember walking outside one night and literally throwing up, because it was just like, those were emotions I had never dealt with sober.
Yeah.
And this was the ultimate rejection from this girl that I loved with my entire soul. And, but I had this community that rallied around me and told me, you know, just keep at it, keep doing it. It will get better. I remember calling my sponsor and telling her, what if she never forgives me? What if I don't get this back? And she was like, well, you've got to be ready. Like, is that something you're ready to deal with? She's like, that might be a possibility. Are you ready to stay sober no matter what? And I had to think about that. Like, I had to consider it. Like, this might be a game changer. But I knew that if I picked up and I went back to where I was, it would take me farther.
Right.
So I just kept doing it. And at some point, I stopped trying. You know what I mean? Like, it just gave her time to heal, gave them time to heal, and backed off. And just that living amends stuff. Like, I'm going to do the next right thing that's put in front of me. I'm going to work the steps to the best of my ability. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be open. I'm going to do what y'all tell me to do. And I'm going to see what happens.
I love that she said that, like, instead of just being like, just stay with it and she'll come back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I like that she was real and was like, okay, well, that's a possibility. What now? What?
Right.
You know?
And she was always like that with me, almost to it not being fun. You know, like, she was always, you know, open and honest with me, and I think that's what kept me in the reality of it, like, you know, because it was a possibility. So I just kept doing it, and ended up going to work for Fleet Feet. And
What made you choose Fleet Feet?
okay,
Because you were a restaurant girl.
So before I had gotten sober, I would do their training programs. So after being sober for like 6 months, I was like, I'm going to try to sign up for a training program. And as I'm signing up, it says, join our team. And I'm like, boop, I think I will. You know, like, yes, thank you. And they interviewed me, and it was such a God thing. Like, I love the people I work with, the people I work for. They're so supportive, and like, kudos to them for giving me a chance when all I had was a desire to learn. Like, I didn't know Like you go in there and they're like teaching you all this stuff about shoes. And you're like, what?
They're nerds.
Yeah.
Yeah. They get it. They got
I'm like,
it all.
what? And I am too now. Like
Yeah.
it's what we do and I love it. And like it's a beautiful thing. And just like the ultimate gift in my sobriety, like God, it's just God putting in front of you what, you know, doing for you what you could not do for yourself. And then, you know,
I bet that was helpful too. I remember when I got sober and I was in sober living and all that kind of stuff, my life changed when I got a job for the first, for the first time being sober, just having that like structure.
yeah.
I mean, it was just at a restaurant, but like structure of like somewhere to be every day and having a little bit of purpose there.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I see some people in early recovery and they don't have somewhere to be every day, or like, you know, it can hinder them because it's almost like we all sort of need some sort of structure a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So did you feel that change?
So at first I was terrified, okay, because all I had done was restaurant work. It was all I knew, and as you know, an alcoholic addict, I don't like change. And I remember sitting in the parking lot, calling my sponsor, being like, "What if they don't like me?" You know, like it felt like that new kid in school, you know. And she was always great. You are a very likable person. Okay. And I would go in and, but yes. And I think another thing, like the restaurants I worked in, I know this is not the case for everyone, but were chaotic.
Yeah.
It was chaos.
Yeah.
So to come in here to this business, like it was like in restaurants, it was get them in, get them out. Well, here it's, hey, you're going to sit down and spend time with this customer. It was just this totally different pace that I loved and needed and wanted. And so, yes, this structure of this like positive environment, it was great.
That's
so,
awesome.
You know, I just loved it. And then I get to do the training programs for free now. So.
There you go.
So, you know, just kept at it and became the best shoe salesman I know how to be. My sponsor calls me Al Bundy. So.
You're pretty good. You're pretty good. You've sold me a couple.
Yeah. I'm the official, I call myself the official shoe salesman of 12 Step programs. I get so many people coming in and they're like, Erin, and they're like, hey, Erin, there's some 74-year-old guy out here asking for you.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of my best friends.
Yeah.
You know? Like, yeah. And so it's great. I love it there. But you know, I just kept plugging away and was living with my parents, and at some point got an apartment in Canton, did that for a while. You know, that was actually kind of crazy. I moved in with a girl from the program with our 2 small kids. Wild. But we stayed sober.
Yeah.
Miracle.
Yeah.
And then ended up back at my parents because I wanted my son to not go to that school district. And but here recently, I've just gotten a small house right down the road.
Right.
Like,
That's huge.
yeah, like, and my daughter moved in with me. So
Wow.
we have completely rebuilt. Oh my God, it's amazing. It's phenomenal. Like the kids are fully back in my life. We've got this little place. It's got a sunroom. I call it my meditation room. And, you know, we just, you know, the things that I never thought were happening.
Yeah.
And I might not have gotten it back the way I thought I'd get it back. But, you know, it's like that cliche that they all say, it's better than I could have imagined.
Yeah.
You know, like so much.
I remember your 1-year sobriety birthday and everyone going to Sal and Mookie's after the meeting. And I haven't been to like a ton of those before, but I will say there was an absurd amount of people at yours, so much so that they had to move extra tables over just because you had so many people supporting you, because these are relationships that you made in the rooms because you went to these people and like you just nurtured these relationships. And that was like how many, it was just a testament to how many, to the work you put in, you know? And I got to meet your kids there And that was pretty cool.
And see, that was still in that phase of like rebuilding.
Yeah.
So we were still kind of, you know, and there was another period of a year. Like after that, I didn't see him for like a year
Wow.
again because they were still just kind of, they were waiting for the ball to drop. You know what I
Right.
mean? But I mean, as soon as I got to play, I don't know. I feel like she was just waiting. You know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
She was like, I was like, come on, girl. She had her stuff moved in 2 days. It was beautiful. I love it. And, you know, talking about that part of like nurturing, it was work. You know what I mean? You don't just come in and just make relationships by sitting in meetings. And, you know, you have to build those relationships. You have to make the phone calls. And I think that was one of the best things that my sponsor had me do early on, call 3 people a day from the rooms. And I would lie to her about it at first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I had no idea. I didn't think, like, oh, she knows these people. She knows I'm not calling them. And,
That sounds like my worst nightmare.
but she had to walk me through it. It was, you know, you're going to pick up the phone, you're going to dial the number, and you're
How
going to
are
ask
you
them how you're
today?
doing. Yeah. How are you doing? And you're going to listen to them. You're not
Uh-huh.
really going to talk about yourself. You know, you're going to get out of self. And I built relationships that way. And it made me want to come back to the rooms. And it made me want to stay early and stay late. And it made me want to, like, dive into service. She made me dive into service, into old timers. I remember going to the Central and sitting in there. And I wasn't even paying attention. And I heard, raise your hand. And I just went, and they're like, decorations committee. I'm like, what? Like, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not a real decorative type of girl, you know? So, but that's how I built these relationships that helped me stay sober, and not just stay sober, but have a life. I can't think of the word, but
Yeah.
you know, a productive life that I enjoy, you know? So I'm not miserable sober. I'm happy sober.
Yeah. How's your relationship with your parents these days?
It's actually really good now that we don't live together.
That'll help.
Yes. I could not do this without them. They helped me with my son very much. You know, I don't love the term single mother because I have so much help. You know what I mean? Like, I know single mothers, you know, like I have, 2 parents that help me very much. I have friends in the rooms that help me. His father's a part of his life, and but they are a big part of that. I would not have found this community in the rooms that I have found without their help early in recovery. And very grateful to them for that. Do they get on my nerves? Yes.
Yeah.
But I love them, you know, so grateful.
I have a question. What in the 12, like, have you done any work around your brother in the 12 steps and in the program? And what has that experience been like, if you have? Or maybe you haven't.
I haven't. I don't really, I don't know. I think that that's something I do therapy. That's the thing. You know,
Yeah.
I'm still with the same woman that helped me get sober at Shephurst Meadows. But,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah. But I think I've come to terms with that. You know,
Yeah.
it's just a part of my story. He was a beautiful soul that, you know, I think what I experienced at some point was that survivor's guilt. You know, like, why did I get it and he didn't? You know,
Yeah.
Like, but at this point, you know, if I'm working my program, I know things are as they're supposed to be. And he's where he's supposed to be, and I'm where I'm supposed to be, and he lived a life of purpose, and I get to honor that today by living a life of purpose and showing up for my kids and my family
Yeah.
the way that I can. So,
Are there any like extra difficult things in your life today? Anything you really struggle with? What's it like today? If there's anything that you do struggle with?
I think motivation.
Yeah.
After being sober for 3 years, we get to that point where we start resting on our laurels.
Yeah.
You know, my recovery is by no means perfect. I I go through all of it just like everyone else, not wanting to go to the meeting, not wanting to get off the couch. I just bought my first couch that wasn't pre-owned, y'all. And I don't want to get off of it.
Yeah.
I love it. And, you know, making myself do the things that I don't want to do, you know? So that's what I struggle with. But again, I have a group of people in my life because of the work, the willingness and the action that I took when I first got here that come up and say, hey, get your ass off the couch, you know? And I listen because these are people that I want what they have. And you know, I'll get through it. I don't try not to beat myself up too much about it. You know what I mean? Like we have those days. Tomorrow we get up and we do it again.
It's definitely easy. I don't know if you guys feel that too, about how easy it is to like get down on yourself. And it's almost like your disease is telling you like, you're the worst at this. You are not legit, like imposter syndrome.
Oh,
get
God.
out of here.
Oh yeah.
You know?
100%.
So it's important, like not to listen to that. Do you ever struggle with that?
Oh yeah.
I mean, you've been sober for a long time.
Yeah,
now.
but that's where my friends come into play. Just like being able to hang out, calling and check, doing the same thing you were doing, but they're doing it at me. What's going on? How are you? Let's go to them. If I'm complaining too much, so like, let's go to a meeting. Let's go do something. You need to get out of the house. You give your wife a break.
Right.
You know,
Right.
Like, yeah, you're probably right. You know, but that's the power of the fellowship and the gift of the fellowship checking on me. If I don't check back and I don't go, they stop calling. And I've been in those dark spots, and that's really tough when nobody's really checking on you because you hadn't been around.
Yeah.
I've been there a couple times.
Our problems are of our own making.
yeah.
Like that's exactly right. Like you got to put the work in to foster those relationships.
I want to say something real quick. So something about that, like the negative self-talk, like I was absolutely the king of it. Like I think most of us are, you know, when we come to the program and even after we come into the program and work the steps, like just that negative self-talk that like we're going to be the hardest on ourselves than anybody else. And just beating the shit out of each other, or of ourselves, you know? And I don't know if this has worked for anyone else, but internal family systems literally changed that for me. I spent 2 years working on it with a therapist, and what it did was it allowed me to understand that there's no inherent bad parts of me. There are just parts of me that get activated and don't know how to make me feel loved and secure any other way. So being able to have that conversation with all of those parts, it has taught me to give myself the grace that you were talking about and not beat up on myself. And I don't have negative self-talk today as a result of that. And that has fundamentally changed every aspect of my life because now I can have this conversation with myself. And when I genuinely love myself, and there's no like, you're such a piece of shit. Like, I can't believe you did that. Of course I make mistakes. But today when I make a mistake, it's, all right, we made a mistake. Let's pick ourselves up. Let's keep going. And, you know, what's done in the past, it's in the past. We can't change that. All we can do is change. And being able to have that positive conversation with myself has fundamentally changed how I can help other people. And so now I'm not focused on, you know, subduing these negative self-talk voices. Now I can focus more on genuinely helping other people. So if you struggle with this, I'm speaking to anybody, if you struggle with that negative self-talk, maybe look into doing some work with internal family systems or some other systems work with a therapist. Because if you really work at it, it will change every aspect of your life. It did with me, at least.
No, we allow ourselves to be human, you know, and that's something we actually touched on at Shephurst. I remember getting out of the house one day, walking to the van and telling myself, you're stupid, you're ugly. You're stupid, you're ugly. Like, where, you know, and today that's just not a part of my life. Like, I get to, you know, I'm pretty damn smart. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't deal with that today, but I very clearly remember addressing that in a therapist's office. Thank God.
Yeah. I have another question.
Let's hear it.
Okay. So when you mentioned God before, when you were in your addiction, you were pretty angry with them. When did that start to change, and what does your relationship with God look like today?
So, I don't know exactly when it changed. It definitely changed, you know what I mean? But I think it was a gradual process. It was a lot of hitting my knees even when I didn't want to,
Mm-hmm.
not knowing who I was talking to.
So you would just do it anyways.
Act as if,
Yeah.
there was a
Yeah.
lot of acting as if,
There's huge value in that.
mm-hmm. And at some point it just was,
Mm.
there is a power greater than me. It is not me. I am not in charge. I do not know all. I am not the beginning and the end. And as long as I do the next right thing, and honestly seek,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I won't get into the whole concept, but I know there is something higher than me that is running the shot, calling the shots, and it's not me. And thank God. Thank
Yeah.
God I'm not in charge, like I would just screw it all up. I always did. So,
Me too.
mm-hmm.
It's kind of cool how it changes. And I that was one of the most important things I learned as well was don't wait for the feelings to come for you to do something.
Yeah.
'Cause,
Oh, yeah.
Like it's so counterproductive. Like if I'm waiting until I feel like doing this or waiting for any of that, like it's just I'll be waiting forever.
Yeah. Never
Just
getting
do
off
it
the
anyways.
couch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Never.
That couch.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to come sit on it.
Oh my gosh, you
Especially
have
when
to.
you own it.
Yeah.
God, what the
I know.
hell?
Never getting off of it. So and that went for a lot of things, like doing things afraid. I used to think that if I was afraid, if I was scared of doing something, if I had anxiety,
Don't
I'm
go.
not doing it.
Mhm.
Well, today I remember when somebody told me for the first time, do it afraid. I was like, like my mind was blown. Like I can do something and be afraid. And then as you do it, afraid each time, you're not as afraid anymore. And that was something when I first got sober. My son with autism, lots of appointments, lots of doctor's appointments. And you've got this kid that's taken off everywhere, and he's huge. His dad's 6'1", like he's like a little linebacker, and he's almost as tall as I am. So you're like trying to wrangle him from like doing all this stuff and like keeping him, and it was a nightmare. And I was always terrified to do it. And I remember my sponsor telling me, "You're just going to do it anyway. You're just going to do it anyway." And we had an appointment a couple weeks ago, and I thought about how much more relaxed and calm. There was just not this fear wrapped around it
Right.
that had always been. And I mean, 12-step programs, recovery, I mean, it's taught me so much more than just how to not pick up,
Right.
How to show up.
Yeah, how to
be there.
show
Yeah.
up, how to live, how to be present, how to, and
Did you ever have anger about your son? Like, were you ever, like, when things were really or are really, really difficult with your son, is there ever that thought that like, oh my God, why me? Like, why do I like, or have you learned to kind of just like be grateful for what you have? Like, what is that like when you're really struggling with that? And how do you deal with
I
those?
definitely don't have the why me. I think, my sponsor drilled it in me. You're not special. That whole thing really quickly, like, why not me?
Right.
I think I've been I'm accepting of it. It's hard. And I think it's more of a sadness. You know what I mean? Like a grief,
How do you deal with that?
The fellowship, calling people, sponsorship,
Probably a lot of acceptance.
a lot of acceptance. At the end of the day, that's what it is. And like, he's beautiful. Like, truly, it is. I could like beautiful chaos.
Yeah.
Like this kid is. I truly believe God gave me the child that I needed, and again, that cliche of you'll get exactly what you can handle. Well, I think God gave him to me because I know how to handle him. I'm patient with him, and you've got to have a lot of patience. I think that's why God gave him to me. I needed to learn patience. You know what I mean? Like, and I have learned it through Benjamin.
Master class.
Master class. Like you've got to be creative and figuring out how to get them to eat vegetables and like stuff
Yeah.
like that. Or
I mean,
take
let's be honest, that's
medicine.
hard for like,
Anybody.
yeah.
And that's what you'll realize. Like it really is hard for, it's probably not, it just seems 10 times blown up in my head probably. But I think the hard part is like a child that doesn't want to have friends, a child that doesn't want to communicate with others in a traditional sense. We had a gathering not long ago, and a few friends were over from the rooms, and he'll show up in communication by like just hanging out nearby. You know what I mean? And there was a time when I would have hovered over him and like tried to keep him in his place. But this room of people that have gotten sober with me and accept him, it was just this beautiful moment of just like sitting there and watching them accept him for who he is, you know, in all his weirdness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
his beautiful weirdness. And I'm so grateful for that. Like, you know.
It's quite a community.
It is.
Like, I really feel lucky to be a part of it.
It really is. And I don't find it, and I have other communities, you know, like,
Right.
but this is different.
It is.
We're special. You know, like,
But like, we're not.
but we're not. Oh yeah. So,
That's amazing. I'm so glad that that we were able to get you on here today.
Yeah.
I love you. And I
you. I
love
love
your
you too.
story.
I love you too.
You really are. Like, you're doing the deal. And you're someone that really inspired me when I moved back to Mississippi. I still remember it, Beagle Pack. And
Yeah.
Let's
and,
go.
and and then like seeing you at Mansdale and you would always share, and you're always there and complaining about the things that Catherine would make you do, and, you know, but you were doing them anyways. And it was just a very cool experience to watch someone doing the deal.
Yeah.
And it really inspired me to also do it. And so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, see Erin at Fleet Feet.
Yeah, come see me.
She get you some shoes.
will.
You will spend a little money, so bring your wallet. Because
But it's worth the knowledge that you get. It really is.
Yeah.
it is. No, I'm saying like bring your money because she's gonna sell you a pair of shoes.
Oh,
You
yeah.
need the shoes.
Yeah.
And so yeah, the Hope Ultra Facebook page, look that up. If you know anyone that needs Narcan, go to that vending machine. We're grateful for you guys listening every single week. It's just such a joy for us to be able to do this. I know it just means a lot. It means a lot to each of us, for everyone who listens and everyone who shows up and shares their story. So everyone have a good week, and we'll see you again.